Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the IBC. How full is it after 2 days of rain? And a new shirt. We're just outside the PSGF on a beautiful, breezy, but beautiful day after a full day yesterday of rain. We got another couple of inches of rain. So in the last 3 days, this guy is almost full to the tippy top. But before I show you that, thanks to Henry 2 Bonsai, my buddy Henry gave me this shirt a little while back and I finally got to wear it on a show. So thanks Henry for the shirt. Brightens up my day every time I wear it. Now, the tank, let's get a close-up and see where it's at. On the back of the structure, I only have 2 fence pieces there, and it's good because I can kind of see how full it is without squinting through the slats. I might put another one down here for some secureness. Yeah, I want to put a nice secure piece down there. But then this is all filled with water. You can't even see the water line. If I come up here and show you that right here by my finger is the water line, which is only 6 inches from the top. Yeah, 6 inches from the top. That is super exciting. So we have an IBC tank that is ready to go to water all the things I want to water. So I have rainwater, almost 250 gallons of it. But that's not what we're going to talk about anymore today. You know what we're going to do? We're going to clean up the larch forest bog. So let's get to work. Spring growth has really taken off on the larch forest. So I collected these larch forests a few years ago with my friend Steve up in the Minnesota bogs. A lot of bogs in Minnesota with larch and the black spruces. And these are all except for the back corner from that bog. Let's take you back to when a couple of these were collected. Up in northern Minnesota, a couple hours north of the Twin Cities metro area, on a brisk 35, 40 degree morning. A lot of blue skies after some rain yesterday, and we're up in the larch bogs. Tamaracks as far as the eye can see. Fellow MBS member Steve, looking for that trophy tree. I came across this 4 clump larch right here, all within a foot radius. There's the trunks down there, goes up. So I did a little pre-trimming, trimmed off the top, and we've cut a circle around the roots to get rid of some of the thicker roots, and we're going to leave it in the bog this year, let it get through the winter. Roots will spread out again in the spring and summer next year, and should it still be a viable tree next fall, we'll take it out of the ground and we'll have a instant forest, a 4 clump. And at the end of the trip, I ended up just pulling out some of the larches that were super small, and I was able to get about a dozen larch, really small ones that just kind of pulled up out of the ground. We got to get these in some sphagnum moss and pumice so they do not dry out. So the first cluster of larch, we're going to go right here in this pot right here. After they were collected and sat in my backyard for a year, We got them into a pot, and this is the second year in this pot. We repositioned things last year, ready to do some trimming. Now this is going to be, or is, kind of an old growth forest. And so when you do look at old growth forests, you see the great big rounded tops on the trees from all the age and the real tall, and they lose a little bit of that conical shape. So the smaller trees were remaining conical, but these two for sure are in that kind of rounder, softer, not as pointy tops. But they're growing like crazy. We're going to cut this back for the first spring cut of the year. We'll probably be able to cut it 2 more times before this is said and done. So I might as well go ahead and start with the smallest of the trees, and that one's right up front here. Now this one we want to remain conical, so we can go ahead and we can just get rid of the length on these guys right here. And I've got a nice branch growing straight up right here. And so this one coming out to the left will just get bulky, so let's take that off. And look at that nice new growth right there. That's going to grow tall. And then we can take this one out here from the back, shorten this one right here, and we can shorten this guy and this guy. And there we have already more of a conical shape. And now I can always pinch these. Very soft new growth. I don't have to cut them. These don't have a tendency to turn as brown as some junipers do, or pines I should say. Some junipers even do that as well. They kind of get a little brown in the tips when you cut them. So you can cut them with your scissors, you can cut them, pinch them with your fingers. So another look here. Everything looks pretty good. I don't want to go too crazy. We'll get this one kind of coming out of this off a little bit. I think I'm going to trim this guy off right there. We can kind of see the trunk of that tree now. This one's kind of going up. This one's kind of going up. This one's really big and coming over this way. We can cut this back now. This one's more going down. We'll cut this one off here in the left because we have 2 now going out to the right, here and here. And that's the width of our tree. So we have a conical shape here. Again, we can cut this one. We'll cut this one a little bit short. A lot of growth on that one. And there we have our conical small tree. This tree's getting shaded out a little bit by this tree now, but we still have some good growth. So again, a couple of branches growing straight up. I'm going to leave the length, and I'm going to trim back where it goes straight up. Get these branches to grow out more, and then we can trim up the next time we trim this guy. And there's a bigger branch up top here that I'm just going to also cut back, because again, we want this to be more of that tip of the conical shape here. And we have a branch on the front and the back. I'm going to go ahead and take the front one off completely. There we go. Now we can see that. But we have this branch right here growing up that could take over as a future canopy if we don't go lower down. And then a couple of these top ones here can be smaller. I think this bottom one we can go one scotch smaller here. And one of the things with larch that you're going to see a lot, they're hard to keep real refined at the tips because they get so bulky and thick and grow so much. So we're going to cut all the thicker branches off for the smaller, younger growth, and then we have that taper as well. From thick to thinnest out at the tapered ends. This guy back here is kind of a strange shape right now. We've got 5 branches up here growing up real tall. This one's going more horizontal. At this part of a tree, they're usually growing up, so we're going to get rid of that one. I'm going to take this one out. I just took it out for this right here. Here's the tip of this tree. If we want it to grow taller, we'll let that one grow. So we just cut all those 4 off and left that one grow for a little bit longer and a little bit more of that conical shape. Well, you can't see the back, but I can go in here and I can thin things out so we're ready for the second push of growth here. And this one right here is real thick on this tree. So back in here now, we have a nice pad. And we got a nice pointy shape to that one. The one in the back is the real wobbly loose one. And I'm not really going to cut too much off of that one except for this horizontal branch, and I'm going to let everything else go. It was my weakest tree. I want that to keep pushing out more growth. There's nothing really drastic on that one. So this whole section of the forest is done. I'm going to save the big ones for last. Have our amber maple kind of in the way here. But here we have the small tree out front. The big tree's getting real big down here. But this one we're going to try to, again, maintain some conical. This branch is dead. Got a nice new branch here growing from this one here. So I think I'm going to take this front one off. So it's not an eyesore from the front. So there we go. This is coming out right at us. This one's got a weird growing angle. This one's kind of growing straight up. We got a branch in here that's kind of facing up here. We're just going to cut this side branch off. Yeah, we're going to trim it back to where there's downward growth here. So I cut this off right here. And now the branch is going down more towards this tree. Here's a dead piece. This one again is growing at us. We'll cut that off. We'll get this really short and promote these tall ones, but there's one in the back, so let's cut this off. Here's the back one right there. Look at how lovely that is. We'll cut the sideways one off and cut this back one off. Again, if I leave all that on, we'll have thickness back there we don't want, but now there's the tip of this tree and this part just died off. And there we go. Get this one shorter because we are at the tip of a tree. We can get that one shorter. Now we have two tips here with that branch in the end, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. I just want that tip to grow, and we're going to make this one really short. We'll cut the bottom branch off here. Now we have this growing up here. So now we've made a little bit more of a conical shape. I don't like this one coming straight out at me either, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Now we can see some trunk line here. We'll cut this big one off. Shorten and shorten. These will all grow back. So I'm making that nice conical shape, shorter on top, wider on the bottom. And now that one's cleaned up. The back one is the thick one from the nursery, so that's the only one not collected in a bog. We'll get this one growing horizontal out front off. We've got a couple new ones growing out to be more of the apex right here. We chopped it back here last year, so we have a couple choices for apexes here. I don't think I want this one. We'll cut all that off. And we'll cut this one off over here. And we'll keep one of these two up here or up here. We'll see how it all grows. It's super thick up here, so it's starting to become one of the old growth trees as well. So we'll just trim it back a little bit this time, and we might let it grow a little bit more ferociously in the future. Sometimes we can go in and we can grab all of these lower facing, especially right now when they're young and soft, we can get that underneath out. We can see through our tree. We can do that with all the branches up and down this real thick tree. It kind of gets that downward growth out of there. So that's a good thing to do to your larches too. You got all this growth. We want things to grow more up towards the sky. So we leave the more of the branches going out and up, and we're getting rid of some of the branches that are shooting down, or some of the foliage, I should say. It's not really branches. Now this is all really young, supple growth. So you have to be careful or you'll get a lot of rippage on here as well. But I think this back tree is becoming an old growth tree as well. We don't have that small conical shape quite as much, which is fine because we kind of want it to be an old growth tree to match these front three ones, and then we have all the other smaller trees around them. So this one and this one are close in height, and we have the big mother tree out front, so that one's catching up. So we'll leave some of this growth to just keep thickening up, but it's so thick in here that I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of these to thin out right there. And again, in here I have some underneath branches. We can get some of that out of there. Cut this one back a little bit. The branches down here, a little sparse. They're going to not see much sun anymore either with all this thick growth of these other trees. So we may be cutting off one more layer of this tree to promote that first branch on an old growth tree that's way up there, you know, 50 to 100 feet off the ground. So that one's thinned out a little bit. We got a couple of branches that go kind of more straight up. Gives it more of that cathedral look, which isn't bad. It's kind of what I'm looking for in this old growth, but we'll wait for this next flush of growth. We want this tree to get a little bit older. And it's gonna reach out and get all big and puffy now up on top. So not as conical back there, but cleaned up nonetheless. I didn't have to touch this one back there at all. This one is kind of weaker. It's got some depth on it. I'm just gonna leave it like that. I like how it looks like it's a tree that's struggling. So we got all these branches that just didn't come back, and that's just fine. But you see how thick these are? So again, we can come in here, we can come underneath on the underneath side and get some of those underneath foliage pads with a little bit more focus going up. Got one in the back here that's really thick. I think I'm just gonna cut that one off. This was kind of pointing straight up, so we took that one off. It's more flat back there now. And again, this will be one of the most flat trees, or parts of the trees down here. And then here we have that round tip look. Let's get this part off, and let's get this part off. And now we have that pad right there. And again, we have a lot of downward foliage here. And if you just go through and pluck a bunch of those off, it's gonna favor the branches that are growing up more now and out instead of down. So those two are cleaned up pretty well. And now here we have this big tree, which is looking really healthy. Again, just to stick my fingers in there, pull off some of those pieces of foliage down below here, and literally can just take my fingers and just pull those out. Got one going up here that's not going to go anywhere. This is a pretty thick branch up here. It's thicker than the one down below. We have a pretty good every other pattern in this guy. I think I have to take my glasses off here now and dig in. Yeah, it's a pretty big, pretty nice every other pattern. I'm gonna get this branch that's just more facing us right here, get that off. Now the branch is going this way. Got a really thick section back here. Beautifully thick, but so thick nothing's gonna be seen by the sun. So I took a branch off here. Took another branch off here. And we thinned that one out a lot, and that was nice. A couple of dead branches down here. So I have two bar branches here and a branch right here. So I think I'm gonna take this one over here, this thick one off, keep that one over here. And we can cut this one back quite a bit. And that's all gonna grow and continue our round shape. It's just gonna get thicker and then thinner and then thinner, and it's gonna be up big and so now we've got this one, and then we got this one in the way kind of. So let's take this one out, and then brings this up over to here. And if we cut this one off, and we cut that big one off there, and now we can kind of see this tree a little bit more. Again, super thick at the tip, so I take the tip off for this young growth, and now we can see the tip of this tree. You see this big branch that splits up here, so this is a really big split really high in the tree. I don't mind that. If this is going to be a big old growth tree and this gets even taller, another 6 inches to 12 inches taller, all this big branch right here will be just a really nice thick canopy at some point. So I'm okay with that at the moment. And again, going underneath and grabbing all of this foliage underneath. Be careful not to yank the tree out of the ground. And so, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. We can take this one probably off, I think, now. Now we can see the tree. Thin a little bit of the tip off here. I like these branches back here. It's a little thick in here. So there's 3 branches on this branch right here. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to cut this inside one off. Try to prevent this from getting chunky in here. But let's take that off so we can kind of see the tip of this tree. Even though it's not completely conical, we don't want it to be conical, so I'm not going to cut all this off. But it was really cluttered in there. Now it's open and we got this nice branch back here, which provides some good texture for this tree, and we'll be in good shape. And we've got a couple new buds here and here that'll grow up, and we'll keep one of those in the future, but probably not both. And again, all this green, soft growth that we can kind of pluck off of this tree right now, because we know it's going to start shooting up new growth, and as we fertilize more, this is just going to go to town. So if you look at that tree and you look at this tree now, we've completely thinned that out real nice. And someday we may even take this branch off or wire it down more so you can see this tree a little better. It'd be nice to see that tree a little bit better, and the old growth is going to be way up here. So I think we'll leave that now. We can see the branches, we can see the tree. We've done some nice trimming there. We've cut everything down so it's going to be ready for another flush of growth. And that one's good. So this has got some interesting stuff going on here. Let's got this big one off. Let's move that one off. We got this here. I'm going to leave that there for the moment. This is kind of a double branch here. It splits right here, but we'll get rid of this underneath stuff. And it does go down nice over here, but it's blocked by this, so we'll leave that for now. We're going to get that tall one up there off. This one's kind of coming at us again, so let's just shorten it for now. This one's kind of coming at us. Let's get rid of this one, because there's one right next to it, and it flows more. Oh, it's from back here. Oh, look at that branch, everybody. That branch was going backwards. We don't need that. This one's going down. We don't need that. Just that thins out that section pretty nice. I like that. Now this one crosses this back one back here, but that back one is so thick and it's way high in the tree. Oh, look at that section we just cut off, everybody. Yeah, but now we got some openness up here. We got some crisscrossy things. Look at that long branch right there. Yeah, we got to cut that off right there. And these two are growing in the same spot right here. I like this one here, so let's keep that one and take the small one out, or should we take the small one out? I'm not sure on that one yet. And this one comes way out here and kind of wobbles back. Let's cut some of that back. Let's cut some of that tip back. We're gonna cut that tip back, that one back now, and this one, because we want this to not be conical, but we want this to start doing some more ramifying. Get that front one off, get this tip off, get this tip off, get this tip off back here. A couple of shortened stuff out here. Maybe that tip off back there. So now this is thinned out too. I think this is going too high. Let's cut it down a little bit. Oh, it's got multiple branch back here. Oh yeah, this is that fun branch. I want to show you that branch. As I move in closer here, look at this branch back here. This branch came straight out and went straight up. And this is kind of like that candelabra type feel. And this would be better if it was way up. Oh, we got a nice little spider right there. See that guy right there? Oh, he's crawling. There he goes. He's gonna go down. Oh, he's coming back up. But this is a candelabra. Look at this. It goes right out of the trunk and goes straight up. And so this whole tree right here, look at this right there. I'm going to keep that. And here's why I'm going to keep it. I'm going to make this a little bit more on the right side here though. So look at this branch right here. You see that branch? And the back one back there, let's cut off just the tip. Let's cut off this tip. And the reason why I like this is because if you're in the redwoods ever, and I do have some trees, some pictures of trees from the redwoods, where you'll just get all of a sudden this secondary tree, and this becomes a whole new tree all by itself, and it looks like a tree with the bottom nabari down here that goes into the trunk, and this becomes a new tree. So we'll shorten this right here, we'll shorten this right here. All of these will get shortened so we can get some more of a ramified tree here within a tree. So there you go. It's kind of like a tree within a tree. Oh, there's that spider again, coming up. He's liking this tree. So even if I have to put a cork in here or wire it out, maybe twist it around in a future planting if I can. It's in the back right now, but I love how that resembles an old redwood tree in the redwood forest because I saw that on trees. And so it does happen in nature. Fascinating stuff. So the forest is coming to a close here. Again, old growth, but we did more trim than I expected to do. This will become old growth. And if you can tell, if this back one's going to be old growth, this branch is way too low. So I think we'll cut that branch off and maybe make a gin on that down there. But right here, we thinned this out as well. We still have some underneath branches. We got a branch that goes way up in the sky over here. I'm going to have to wire that down in the future. But let's cut off the tips. Got a little die back there. Again, underneath branches. If we don't flush some of these out, thin some of that out, and you can see under the tree better. This one's growing backwards. Let's take that out of here. So, looking good. These trees are growing super healthy this year. So they liked winter in their storage in the garage. They did not go in a cold frame, but they can freeze solid. Some people will say that cold frames for these is not the way to go, that they need to freeze solid. So keep that in mind when you're doing larches. Cutting all these branches shorter, so just we have some semblance of a little cleanup here. And I don't know that I want to do a whole lot more with this tree. I want to let it grow out again for part 2 this year. We'll clean up this tip in the future, but again, I like the round look. I want the round look for the old growth. Then we've got skinny, 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 and this one's getting a little bit bigger. Barely any life in that back one in the corner here. Barely life in any here, but they're alive. They are alive and kicking. So I'm not going to trim anything more there. I will cut this off though. Now because I want this to be an old growth forest, this branch maybe is just too low. So what happens if we go ahead and strip it bare? So the next branch is back here and it's not much higher, but it is higher and it's in the back. And there's this little one out front right here by my hand. But this one, we can go ahead and we can strip clean. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And matter of fact, let's just get rid of all that. There we go. And then we'll come in here and we'll do the scissors wrap around trick. Pinching the bark. And we come in here, and now we're going to give this tree a little bit of age right there by stripping all that off. All right. And then if I can, I always like to rip it with the pliers so it doesn't look like I cut it. Like I cut it. There we go. Rip that right off. And there we go. It's a chunky piece right there. I can maybe break this one off. It's so young and alive that it's kind of hard to break these without cutting them first. But if I cut it just right, there we go. There we have the larch forest, the collected larch in its new clean state. We do have still that old growth feel with some bigger, rounder tops on those middle two trees, some skinnier trees on the outsides. And if you look over on the left right there, we just created that gin right there. Yeah. And we left the back trees alone. They're young, they're still surviving, but they get blocked by some of the sun. Now we almost have grass on the bottom there. Look at all that grass down there. That's just the foliage that we're gonna have to clean up. But a nice looking larch forest ready for round 2 for the growth. And we'll come back and trim it again in about another month or 2. And then one more time before fall. Oh, I'm liking this forest. It's really healthy this year. That's gonna wrap things up. I love the larch forest, the old growth. When you're here in person, you can see the gnarly bark of these trees getting older. This tree right here could be pushing 30 years old. About an inch of growth up on the bogs, about an inch of growth, anywhere from 10 to 30 years, they say. And they've cut them open to prove it. So this one's my most majestic old tree. Had a nice piece of damage right here, but it's growing up tall and it wants to still be a big tree. And really a fun tree. And then all the other ones that are clinging to life, really starting to take hold this year, a lot of growth. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks again to Henry for the shirt. Henry 2 Bonsai, get yours today. Hey everybody, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you on the next one.